They said the small town forgot a child, and Evelyn Blackwood from Midnight Murmurs Radio invites you tonight to step quietly into the shadows of that unsettling truth. A truth that lingers like a soft draft beneath a closed door, or like a memory that town keeps tucked beneath its floorboards, hoping no one will lift the wood. Her voice flows slowly, low and hushed, telling you that before we wander into the heart of that forgotten story, you should lie back, settle your head, allow your shoulders to loosen and your breath to lengthen, letting the calm of the night wrap around you like a warm shawl. She guides you to inhale steadily, letting the chest rise gently as though lifted by soft lantern light, and exhale even slower, letting the weight of your day melt into the quiet of the room, reminding you that you are safe, unhurried, drifting into a space where the world grows softer and nothing demands anything from you. As your breath deepens, Evelyn begins to paint the first strokes of the town itself, a place called Waverly Gap, cradled between two low hills and wrapped in morning fog that rarely lifted before noon. The kind of small American town where autumn festivals filled the single main street with pumpkin lanterns and warm cider, where people waved from porch swings, where children once played beneath maple trees, glowing with October fire. And yet beneath that postcard charm lay a stillness that wasn't peaceful, more like a silence created by something missing. Evelyn tells you that years ago, during the last harvest parade the town ever held, a young child named Miriam wandered away from the crowd, her small footsteps disappearing somewhere near the abandoned schoolhouse at the north end of town, a place adults rarely spoke of, except in careful, measured tones, as though even mentioning it might stir the dust too deeply. The strange thing was not just that Miriam vanished, but that the town, for reasons no one could clearly explain, did not search for long. The grown-ups spoke of confusion, of mixed memories, of assuming someone else was looking, and in the days that followed, something unspoken settled over Waverly Gap, like mist pulling tight around the rooftops, and Miriam's name slowly dissolved from conversations, from porch talk, even from old newsletters, as though the town decided quietly, collectively, that forgetting was easier than remembering. Evelyn's voice deeps softer, urging you to let your thoughts drift with the gentle rhythm of the night, as she describes how, years later, odd stories began spreading about the old schoolhouse, faint tapping heard from inside even on windless nights, lights flickering in rooms long stripped of electricity, a small silhouette seen in upper windows where the glass had cracked and clouded over. Some said it was imagination, others said it was guilt made visible, and a few whispered that the town had forgotten not because it lacked love, but because something in Waverly Gap seemed to nudge memories aside, as though smoothing them down like wrinkles in a sheet. She tells you that one autumn evening, long after the town gave up its festivals, a traveling archivist named Callum Reeves arrived. Drawn by this strange erasure, he had heard about how an entire community seemed to lose the thread of one story, one child, one moment. He walked the fog-wrapped streets, noting how the houses clung closely together, how the air felt heavy with unsaid truths, and how every person he interviewed blinked with the same uneasy softness when he mentioned Miriam's name. Like someone waking from a dream they couldn't quite recall, Evelyn guides your breath again, slow and deep, as she reveals that the archivist discovered something troubling in the town's records. Every document related to the harvest parade from that year had been mysteriously altered, dates shifted, names blurred, pages missing from old binders. Photographs faded only at their centers where Miriam should have been standing. And when he visited the schoolhouse, pushing open its warped wooden door, he felt a coldness brush past him, not sharp or frightening, but purposeful, like a child's small hand nudging him forward. Evelyn whispers that tonight you and she will walk with Callum into that echoing building, where dust hangs like sleep-bound snowflakes, where every footstep seems to remember something the town tried to forget, and where the truth of what happened to Miriam lies, waiting in the quiet. But for now, she slows the world around you, letting your breath fall into an easy rhythm, reminding you that this story, no matter how dark its roots, will guide you gently through its quiet corridors and toward a peaceful night's rest. And as the final threads of this first part settle around you, she murmurs, soft as drifting fog, that Waverley Gap never meant to forget, a child something deeper, older, and stranger moved through the town like a hidden tide, and its current is what we begin to follow. Let your body loosen, let your mind soften, and allow the story to carry you onward, slowly, safely, ever deeper. Asterisk. The quiet roads of Marrow Creek stretched before you like long ribbons of dusk, the kind that seemed to hold their breath as evening settled over the forgotten little town. Evelyn Blackwood's voice continues softly in your mind, low and steady, guiding your steps through a place untouched by time, a place where memories sleep under layers of dust and silence. The air is mild tonight, a warm breeze sweeping across the empty sidewalks, carrying with it the faintest scent of pine resin and something older, something like a memory the town would rather not remember. You walk slowly past wooden storefronts, most of them closed, their signs faded, and their windows clouded with age. A gentle hush rests over everything, as if the buildings themselves are listening, waiting to see whether you will notice what has been buried here. And in this soft, muted twilight, you feel your shoulders sink a little deeper into relaxation, your breath quieter, your steps softer, as though the very ground is encouraging you to let go of the weight you carried in. Ahead lies Maple Street, the center of what locals still call Old Town, though many of those locals have long since drifted away. A single lamppost flickers at the corner, humming faintly, its amber glow forming a warm halo in the gathering dark. Beneath it stands the old notice board once used to announce bake sales, parades, and fall festivals, but now carrying only tattered flyers that sway gently in the evening breeze. Among them, one catches your eye. It isn't fully readable anymore. Just a corner of weathered parchment showing a child's drawing of a sun and the faint outline of small handwriting. You can't make out the name, but something about it lingers in your thoughts like a whisper from another time. Evelyn's voice settles deeper now, her tones smooth and deliberate. In a town like Marrow Creek, she murmurs, memories fade, but silence remembers everything. You continue down the street, guided by her presence, feeling strangely comforted despite the subtle chill that curls through the air. The houses along the road grow older as you walk, their wooden frames leaning ever so slightly, paint peeling in soft curls. You imagine each home holding its own stories, bedtime tales, read beside soft lamplight, the clatter of morning dishes, the laughter of children playing in backyards. Yet tonight, those memories feel distant, unreachable, like a photograph left too long in the sun. As you approach the edge of the neighborhood, the landscape opens into a gentle field of tall grass swaying in the dusk. At the far end stands an old water tower, its legs rusted, its ladder crooked. Locals once said it hummed at night, a deep metallic groan that rose with the wind. Some believed the sound was something trapped inside, something that wanted to be remembered. The breeze shifts, the grass whispering softly, and a faint sound is almost like a child's laugh. But it's distant, faint enough that it could just be a bird, or your imagination stirred by the quiet of the evening. Evelyn speaks again, slow and calming. Just breathe. Let the night hold you. Let Marrow Creek show you what it's ready to share. You follow a narrow path, winding toward the town's small community park. A white wooden swing set stands there, creaking lazily even though there is no wind strong enough to move it. The chains softly clink, rhythmic and familiar, like a lullaby from years long past. The sandbox beside it is almost untouched. No footprints, no toys, just smooth, undisturbed sand glowing faintly under the rising moon. You pause, sensing something gentle yet sorrowful lingering here, not threatening, not present, something waiting to be acknowledged. Fireflies begin to spark in the shadows among the trees, their tiny lights drifting like wandering spirits. They illuminate the outline of a small stone monument near the park entrance, barely 3 feet tall, with initials carved into its surface. The name is worn away by weather. Only the first letter remains. Evelyn's voice lowers to a soft murmur. Some names disappear, but the stories behind them linger like breath on cool glass. You feel the stillness wrap around you now, comforting in its quiet mystery. The park, the trees, the flickering lights, they all feel like pieces of a puzzle long forgotten by the world but remembered by the land. As you stand there, letting the warmth of the night settle into your bones, Evelyn gently closes the moment. For now, let the whispers of Marrow Creek drift around you, soft as falling ash. Let the quiet guide you deeper into rest. Her voice softens further, fading like moonlight slipping behind clouds. As the story fades, allow yourself to drift into a peaceful sleep. Night has settled fully over Marrow Creek now, wrapping the town in a velvet hush that feels both protective and ancient, as though the darkness itself has memories of the place memories. It keeps tucked carefully beneath its stillness. Evelyn Blackwood's voice drifts with you like a calm shadow, her presence steady and reassuring as you move deeper into the old park. The worn grass beneath your feet is soft, carrying the faint fragrance of dew forming early on this unusually quiet night. Beyond the swings, a narrow footpath curves into a small grove of maple trees. Their leaves rustle softly overhead, stirring just enough to break the silence in gentle, soothing intervals. The moonlight threads through the branches, falling in thin silver ribbons that sway on the ground. Everything here feels slow and patient, as though the night itself is waiting to exhale. You breathe in, letting your chest rise and fall with deliberate calm, allowing the cool, tranquil air to wash over your senses. Each step seems to sink you deeper into a state of softness, a peaceful drifting, a separation from the tension you carried outside this story. As you follow the moonlit path, you notice something subtle, faint glow ahead, low to the ground, flickering like a candle shielded behind glass. At first it resembles another cluster of fireflies, but the light is steadier, warmer, and somehow purposeful. You move toward it, Evelyn's voice guiding your thoughts with quiet certainty, reminding you to stay relaxed, to let your breath remain gentle and slow. The glow leads you to an old wooden gazebo at the center of the grove. Its floorboards creak softly under your shoes as you step inside, the sound blending with the distant hum of crickets. Here, sheltered beneath the gently bowing branches, sits an antique lantern. Its glass is cloudy, its metal frame worn, but the flame inside burns with a delicate, wavering life, as though someone tended it moments before your arrival. Yet no one is here. The night holds its breath once more. Unilo. Perhaps simply lean closer, drawn to the warm amber light. The flame dances in a way that feels almost intentional, like it's responding to your presence. Inside the glass, faint streaks of soot-form shapes that seem to shift ever so slightly, hinting at letters or symbols. Long forgotten, a soft pulse of wind moves through the clearing, lifting the leaves into a whisper. Evelyn's tone deepens, gentle but threaded with mystery. Some things remain lit, even when the world forgets why they were left burning. The words settle in your mind like footprints left in fresh snowlight, quiet and strangely meaningful. As you rise again, your eyes drift to the far edge of the gazebo, where a wooden plaque is nailed to the railing. The wood is splintered, the engraving almost erased by time and weather. But your eyes adjust slowly, and you make out the faintest trace of a name, or rather, the beginning of one. L, the same letter carved into the small stone monument, back at the park entrance. The connection hums softly beneath your skin, not alarming, not frightening, just a quiet recognition, like remembering a lullaby from a distant childhood. The lantern flickers, the breeze stills, and the grove seems to lean in, its silence deepening as though it expects you to understand something unspoken. You step back from the plaque and leave the gazebo, feeling the night shift around you, guiding you onward. The path curves gently downhill, leading toward the creek for which the town is named. The sound of water reaches you before you see it, a slow, steady murmur like whispered words shaping themselves into meaning you cannot yet grasp. The moonlight spreads across the surface of the creek in rippling silver patterns, broken only by drifting leaves and occasional glints of stone. The air is cooler here, carrying the earthy scent of wet soil and moss-covered rocks. It feels soothing, grounding, as though the earth itself breathes beneath your feet. Evelyn continues, her cadence slow and hypnotic. Follow the quiet places, where stories sink deep into the ground and wait to be found again. Across the creek lies a narrow wooden footbridge, old but sturdy enough, with rails polished smooth by years of hands long gone. You cross it slowly, each step producing a soft wooden sigh that blends with the water. On the other side, the land opens into a sloping meadow, Fireflies drift along the edges, tiny stars that move with gentle, unhurried rhythm. You walk through the meadow, letting the tall grass brush lightly against your legs. Something about this place feels old, older than the town itself, as though it once held gatherings, bonfires, picnics, children running and laughing. But tonight, it is empty, serene, wrapped in a comforting stillness. At the far end stands a small wooden signpost, its white paint almost completely peeled away. By moonlight, you can just make out the faint lettering. Memorial Field. The breeze quiets. The fireflies gather. The night holds a soft, lingering sigh. Evelyn's voice lowers to a tender whisper, closing this chapter of the night's wandering. Rest here for a moment. Feel the hush of this place settle into you, gentle as falling dust. Let the story wrap around you like a blanket of dusk and memory. Her final words drift slowly, warm and soothing. As the story fades, allow yourself to drift into a peaceful sleep. Night settles deeper over Memorial Field, the air softening into a gentle coolness that drapes itself over the meadow like a lullaby made of shadows. The fireflies drift in slow, unhurried arcs, their warm pulses rising and falling in a rhythm that feels ancient, almost ceremonial. Astug Dave been keeping vigil here long before the town of Marrow Creek ever existed. Evelyn Blackwood's voice lingers close, steady, and velvety, guiding you deeper into the quiet memories, pressing softly at the edges of this place. You take a slow breath, letting the scent of wild grass and distant pines settle into your lungs. The hush is comforting, yet there is something beneath it, something faint, like the echo of a moment held in the air long after the people who lived it have gone. A subtle impression of footsteps running, laughter trailing behind small silhouettes, a summer long forgotten, and a gathering that never fully ended. As you move farther into the meadow, the fireflies drift apart, revealing a faint pathway pressed into the grass by time. It leads toward a small hill crowned by a lone oak tree, its branches sprawling outward in quiet, dignified curves. The tree stands like a keeper of memories, its roots sunk deep into the earth, holding stories that town no longer dares to speak aloud. With each step you feel the ground shift slightly beneath your feet. Astug you re-walking over something layered soil, then history, then soil again. A cycle of remembering and forgetting. Evelyn's voice hums, low and soothing. Some towns bury their stories in the open, trusting the night to keep them gentle. At the base of the oak tree, you find a circle of stones, small, smooth, arranged with deliberate care. They glimmer faintly under the moonlight. A memorial of sorts, though there is no plaque, no name, nothing to indicate who or what it honors, only the quiet arrangement, as though placed by someone with patient hands and a heavy heart. One of the stones catches your eye. Unlike the others, it is etched with a faint mark, a single letter. L. The third time you've seen it tonight, the letter feels like a whisper of recognition, like a thread tugging lightly at your breath. Not frightening, just a soft insistence, a reminder that something here wants to be remembered gently. You crouch beside the stone circle, letting your fingers brush the cool surface of the nearest rock. The temperature of the air shifts, almost a breeze arises, brushing through the oak branches and stirring the grass into a slow sway. And for the briefest moment, you hear it, a faint, melodic humming. He butts off like the sound the child makes while lost in imagination. It drifts through the meadow, carried by the wind. When you glance up, the breeze stills instantly. The humming fades. The air returns to its tranquil stillness. Evelyn speaks again, her tone warm and slow. Sometimes echoes remain when the world forgets the voices that made them. You stand again and continue up the hill. At the crest, the view opens wide. Merrow Creek lies below small, gentle, almost dreamy under the silver wash of moonlight. Street lamps glow pale yellow along the narrow roads. The rooftops gather quiet starlight. Smoke rises faintly from one old chimney, curling into the sky with peaceful ease. Yet even from here, the town looks incomplete, as though something is missing from the stillness. Something once vital. The shadows between the houses seem a little too deep. The silence in the streets a little too practiced. You breathed in slowly, letting the hush settle around your shoulders like a soft shawl. A pair of owls hoot in the distance, their calls low and steady, threading through the night in soothing intervals. From this vantage point, you notice another detail of faint, narrow road branching off from the town's main street. It leads toward an old district on the far side of Merrow Creek, a section where the houses grow older, their roofs sagging, their windows dim, a neighborhood that seems to lean inward, as though holding its breath. Evelyn's voice lowers. Some places fade themselves, hoping no one will notice what was forgotten there. You descend the hill slowly, following the gentle path that winds toward the old district. The fireflies drift with you, their glow soft and comforting. The deeper you walk, the more the night thickens, not threatening, but dense with the weight of stories tucked quietly into the corners. The houses here crouch low, their wooden siding worn by decades of weather, curtains hang unmoving behind dusty windows. A porch sways lightly, though there is no wind. The air smells faintly of old books, lavender, and something else, something like chalk or schoolroom dust. As you pass a small, abandoned schoolhouse, the feeling sharpens. Not fear, not sorrow, a presence, gentle and fragile, something that lingers because it was never given a chance to leave fully. The door of the schoolhouse stands slightly ajar, just wide enough for moonlight to slip through and illuminate the narrow hallway inside. You take a step closer, and there, faintly illuminated, lies a tiny shoe, just one. Child-sized, dusty, untouched for years. The soft glow of fireflies gathers around it like a quiet vigil. Evelyn's voice drapes itself around you in a final soothing whisper. Rest here for a moment. Breathe gently. Let the night cradle your thoughts. As the story fades, allow yourself to drift into a peaceful sleep. The small shoe sits in the doorway like an unfinished sentence, resting on its side, as though it was placed there gently by hands that never return to pick it up again. Moonlight pushes softly across the wooden floorboards, revealing dust that has settled in quiet layers, each one holding a different season of forgotten years. Evelyn Blackwood's calm, low voice moves with you, steady as a slow current, in places where memories linger. She murmurs. The air itself learns how to whisper. You breathe deeply, letting the cool night air trace its way down through your chest. The stillness around the schoolhouse is not harsh or cold, it is soft, muted, patient, like the long exhale of a place that has finally stopped expecting visitors. You step inside, the floor creaking gently beneath your weight. The sound echoes faintly, then fades into a comforting hush. The hallway is narrow, lined with hooks where small coats once hung. Faded construction, paper decorations cling to the walls in ghostly tatterstuff. Apples. Crooked smiles drawn in crayons by children whose names no longer travel through the town. Your fingertips drift lightly along the wall, feeling the cool texture. The building breathes around you, not alive, not haunted, simply remembering. A classroom door on the left stands slightly open, its brass knob tarnished to a muted bronze. When you push it gently, the hinges sigh, a soft and weary sound. Inside, the desks remain arranged in careful rows. Some chairs are pushed in neatly, others sit askew, as though left in a hurry. A chalkboard stretches across the far wall, its surface cloudy with the faint remnants of old lessons. But bare, drawn near the bottom corner lower than an adult would ever write, is a single letter. L. Written in white chalk, small and uncertain, as though by a child still learning to shape the alphabet. The repetition of the letter settles over you with the softness of falling ash, not alarming, just quiet and insistent, a thread weaving through the night's wandering path. You take a slow breath. The room is filled with a gentle hum, not mechanical, not supernatural, just the subtle vibration of empty space holding on to the last warmth of the day. Evelyn's voice deepens, soothing and steady. Sometimes a town forgets, not out of cruelty, but out of fear that remembering will unravel the seams that hold it together. In the center of the room, beneath one of the desks, lies another small object. You kneel carefully, letting the wooden floor warm against your knees. A tiny notebook bound with red string rests on the dusty boards. Its cover is worn, the edges frayed, as though it has been opened and closed countless times in moments of quiet concentration. When you lift it, the string slips free with a soft whisper, and the notebook opens on its own to the middle page. The writing is uneven, the letters big and spaced far apart. A child's hand guided them. I'm still here. The words shimmer faintly in the moonlight, not moving, simply existing with a presence that feels gentle, hopeful, and impossibly patient. A soft wind stirs the pages, carrying the faint scent of old paper and something sweeter, something like lilac. Though there are no flowers within miles, you rise slowly, holding the notebook to your chest for a moment before placing it gently atop the nearest desk. The building feels quieter now, as though it has shared something long held and can finally rest. You leave the classroom, stepping back into the hallway. The moon has climbed higher, casting long pale beams through the cracked windows, turning dust motes into slow-floating constellations. As you approach the front of the schoolhouse, you notice another detail. A mural painted on the wall, faded nearly to nothing. Children holding hands in a circle beneath a smiling sun. One of the figures, smaller than the others, is missing its face entirely. The paint has peeled away in that single oval, leaving only the faint outline of where features should have been. Yet below that faceless figure is a name, barely legible. Lara. A soft warmth gathers in your chest. The name seems familiar, not from memory, but from the gentle pattern of tonight's quiet clues, as if the town itself has been trying to form the syllables, but kept losing its voice. Evelyn's whisper becomes a warm ribbon of sound drifting beside your thoughts. Some stories fade until only the night remembers them, but the night never forgets entirely. Outside, the air is still and cool. The fireflies have gathered once more, forming a loose, shimmering trail that leads away from the old district and toward the outskirts of town. You follow them, your footsteps slow, your body relaxing with every breath. The night wraps itself around you like a soft quilt, the stars blinking through the dark with gentle patience. The trail of fireflies leads you to an old wooden bridge stretching over a shallow gorge. Beneath it, the sound of trickling water blends with the rhythmic chorus of crickets. The bridge feels solid under your feet, worn smooth by decades of use. At Heat's center, carved into the railing, you find the same letter again. L, but this time the carving is deeper, carefully made, purposeful. Below it, almost hidden in the grain of the wood, are two more letters. A are enough to feel like a whisper of a name finally surfacing, enough to feel like the town has been trying to speak through places long abandoned. You stand there for a moment, breathing deeply, letting the quiet recognition settle into your bones. The night around you softens, thickens, holds you like a dream that knows you by heart. Evelyn's voice returns, warm and drifting, a final breath of comfort. Rest for now. Let the pieces remain gentle in your mind. As the story fades, allow yourself to drift into a peaceful sleep. The breeze along the wooden bridge settles into a slow, rhythmic sway, brushing lightly against your skin, as though the night is gently encouraging you forward. The carved letters beneath your fingertips feel warmer than the surrounding wood, as if the name had only recently begun to reappear after years of being forgotten. LAR, the unfinished whisper of a child's identity, lingering like a soft breath against the grain. You remain there for a moment, listening to the creek far below as it moves in a quiet, tireless trickle, its voice steady and reassuring. Evelyn Blackwood's warm, low tone glides in like a soft lantern glow. Names are threads, she murmurs, and some threads return on their own. You inhale slowly, letting tension slip away from your shoulders. The entire town seems to exhale with you. Even the chorus of crickets softens, as though giving space for the night to speak more clearly. The trail of fireflies drifts onward from the bridge, each one pulsing faintly in the darkness, guiding your steps toward a cluster of older homes at the far end of Meadow Creek homes that sit close together, their porches sagging, their windows clouded with age. As you approach, the air grows denser, not heavy, but full-rich, with the impression of longer evenings, porch lights flickering during summer storms, and the laughter of children running barefoot across the packed dirt road. One house stands slightly apart from the rest, painted a once tearful shade of yellow, now faded into a muted echo of its former brightness. Its shutters hang loosely, its steps bow inward, and yet the front door is perfectly shut, perfectly centered, almost expectant. The fireflies gather near its porch, their light forming a soft halo. Something about the house feels familiar, though you have never been here before. Familiar. The way a half-remembered dream is familiar. You step closer. The porch boards release a tired groan under your weight, and you pause, feeling the breath of the night wrap around you like a warm scarf. Evelyn's voice lowers, thick with tenderness. Old houses listen more than they speak. You reach the door, its paint cracked, its brass handle dulled yet. It feels grounded, certain, as though it still holds tight to the story that has quietly unraveled around you this entire evening. At eye level, etched faintly into the wood, barely visible under the moonlight, is a small mark, a letter L. Your breath releases slowly. The connection becomes whole in a quiet, gentle way, not sudden, not dramatic. Just a soft settling, like a name finally finding its place. When you push the door, it opens with almost no resistance, as though it had been waiting. Inside, the air is cool and still. Dust drifts like pale snowflakes through a shaft of moonlight slipping between the curtains. The room is sparsely furnished, an old couch, a coffee table, a bookshelf leaning slightly to one side. But against the far wall stands something that pulls your attention like a whisper in a silent room. A child's dresser. Small, painted white, covered in tiny hand-drawn stickers of stars and little animals. On top of it sits a framed photograph coated in a thin film of dust. You lift it carefully, the frame cool and smooth against your fingers. Beneath the dust, the picture begins to appear. A family standing in front of this very house, two parents smiling with exhausted joy, and beside them, a small girl with bright eyes and hair tied in uneven pigtails. She wears a dress with tiny embroidered flowers and holds a small notebook tied with red string, the same notebook you found in the schoolhouse. The child's name is printed in careful handwriting at the bottom of the photograph. Lara. Then something even softer emerges, something not visual, but felt. A presence. A present, not looming, not haunting, gentle, like a child's curiosity brushing against your thoughts, wondering if someone finally remembered her name. Lara, Evelyn repeats, her voice sinking into the moment like a warm blanket. Some stories vanish from the surface, but linger in the quiet spaces where no one thought to look. You set the photograph back and let your gaze drift across the room. A soft pressure enters the air, akin to the feeling of a small hand lightly grasping your sleeve, not pulling, just resting, grateful for being noticed. The fireflies gathered outside the window now, their golden pulses reflecting softly on the glass, forming the shape of a curve, then another, mimicking the gentle outline of a smile. The room warms slightly. Ter estedis. And in that moment, the entire night seems to offer a hush of release, as though a story long unopened has been gently lifted, read with care, and set free. You step back toward the door, letting the night's tender breeze wash over your senses once more. Evelyn's closing whisper wraps around you like the safe weight of a quilt. Rest now, knowing that forgotten things find their way back in the gentlest hours. Let your breath slow. Let the quiet hold you. As the story fades, allow yourself to drift into a peaceful sleep. A final pause, warm and low. And if this tale has brought you peace tonight, consider subscribing to Midnight Murmurs Radio so we may share many more quiet stories together. Morning never arrives abruptly in Merrow Creek. It seeps in like watercolor, pale and hesitant, washing gently over the rooftops and filtering through the branches of old maples that seem to hold the night just a moment longer before letting it go. When you open your eyes, you find yourself standing once more along the quiet road that leads away from Laura's old house. The early light weaving soft ribbons of gold along the cracked pavement. The world feels hushed, not in an eerie way, but in the tender quiet that follows a long-forgotten memory, finally spoken aloud. Evelyn Blackwood's voice lingers with you, as warm and steady as ever. Morning, she whispers, is where old stories settle into new shapes. You breathe deeply, the cool air carrying hints of dew-soaked grass, wood smoke, and the faint sweetness of something like honeysuckle lingering from nights long gone. The fireflies have vanished with the dawn, but the path ahead feels just as gently guided, the air itself moving with a subtle pullaz, though encouraging you toward the heart of what the town has tried so long not to remember. You walk slowly, letting your steps fall soft against the ground. The houses here grow newer as you move closer to the center of Merrow Creek. Fresh pane, tidy gardens, wind chimes that tinkle lazily in the soft breeze. Yet beneath the neatness lies a peculiar stillness, as though the town has become so accustomed to forgetting that remembering feels like a draft slipping beneath a closed door. A tall white building comes into view, the Merrow Creek Historical Hall. Its columns rise proudly, but its windows are dim, their panes clouded by years of rain and disuse. Ivy clings to the stone like a gentle, persistent memory unwilling to let go. You step inside, the door groaning softly, releasing a smell of old books, polished wood, and the faint metallic scent of time. The lobby is quiet. Sunlight drifts through high windows, illuminating dust suspended like floating pollen. Display cases line the walls, photographs, maps, newspaper clippings from decades past. The silence here feels different from the schoolhouse. Less personal, more curated, as though the town wanted to decide which memories deserve to remain. Evelyn's voice glides in like a soft breeze. History halls, she says gently, often remember the least important things and hide the ones that ache. You walk past a row of framed black and white photographs, parades, old storefronts, celebrations on July 4th, children waving tiny flags. But something feels off. There are many faces, many names, yet none of the children resembled the one from the photograph in Laura's dresser. Nothing notes her class, her year, her presence, almost as if she'd never stepped into the town square, never held a sparkler on a summer night, never existed within the camera's patience. You continue deeper into the hall. Toward the back, half hidden behind a tall wooden display, is a smaller section titled Merrow Creek. The Lost Decade. The lighting here is dimmer, cooler, as though this part of the building has gone unvisited for years. A single glass case sits in the center, and inside rests a collection of objects that feel strangely familiar, though you have never seen them before. A small knitted mitten, a silver bracelet too tiny for an adult wrist, a crumpled school drawing of a house beneath a crooked sun. Something in you stills, breaths softening. Each object is labeled except one. A blank space on the velvet lining marks where something else once sat. The absent feels intentional, as though the missing item had been quietly removed. Or perhaps it had never been allowed here in the first place. A whisper of wind moves through the hall, brushing lightly across your ear. Not cold, not warm, simply present. And then something catches your attention, a faded newspaper clipping pinned on a board behind the glass case. Its edges yellowed, its ink soft by time. The headline reads, "Local child goes missing. Community rallies. Search expands." But the name is smudged beyond recognition. The letters blurred into unreadable shapes. Only the first remains visible, L. The same letter that has been following you through the night like a small hand reaching out in the dark. Evelyn's voice lowers, taking on a tone that feels like a candle being shielded from the wind. "Some stories," she murmurs, "vanish not because they were lost, but because someone wished them to be." As you lean closer, the room brightens slightly, though no light has changed. And that is when you notice it. A tiny reflection on the inner glass of the display case. The faint outline of a small face watching you, not frightening, not sorrowful, simply waiting with old patience. When you blink, the reflection is gone, but the feeling remains. This story is not finished. The day outside grows warmer, but the hall stays cool, steady. A keeper of truths half hidden. Do step by, breathing slowly, letting calm settle through your body. The town is stirring beyond these walls, unaware that its quietest story has begun to rise like morning fog. Evelyn's voice wraps around you one last time, soft and grounding. "Walk gently," she whispers, "for the next piece is waiting." Night settles over Harrow's End with a slow, deliberate stillness. As Evelyn guides you deeper into the forgotten edges of the town, her voice as soft as dust drifting through moonlight. "Let yourself move quietly," she murmurs, the cadence warm and gentle, as though the night itself is listening. You followed the narrow road leading away from the town center, past the shuttered library and the silent chapel whose bell has not rung in over 40 years. The air here feels cooler, tinged with the faint scent of pine resin and old paper, like the breath of a place that has been waiting too long to be remembered. Each step carries you farther from the familiar and closer to the unspoken heart of the mystery. The child no one remembers. The presence that lingers, weightless yet certain, in every shadowed corner of Harrow's End. Evelyn's voice deepens to a soft hum. "Breathe in, then let it drift out slowly, and feel the path rise gently beneath your feet." The road leads into the outskirts, where houses thin out and nature presses closer. Fireflies hover low over patches of tall grass, their lights flickering in slow patterns like signals meant for someone who never arrived. The wind curls around your ears with an almost melodic whisper, as though practicing a name it has not spoken in decades. Ahead, you see the remnants of an old trailhead, its wooden sign cracked. Letters faded until only a few remain. WND TRM. The missing letters feel deliberate, as though scrubbed away to erase what began here. You step onto the trail, and the forest seems to exhale, welcoming yet watchful. Pines rise tall around you, their branches forming an arch that filters the moonlight into thin silver ribbons stretching across the dirt path. Evelyn guides your breaths in time with the gentle sway of the tree. "Let the forest cradle your thoughts," she whispers. "Let the quiet steady you." But even within this peace, subtle signs begin to appear, soft, quiet, unsettling in a way that does not frighten, only stirs a deeper curiosity. A small mitten lies abandoned beside the path, edges frayed, dusted with pine needles. It is impossibly clean for something left in the woods. No mold, no moisture, no decay, as though time has been unable to touch it. A few steps later, you notice a faint ring of stones arranged around a hollow patch of dirt. In the center lies a single toy block, the letter C carved into its surface. You feel the familiar pull of the stories forgotten, thread-felt, but never spoken, while Evelyn murmurs, "Sometimes traces remain, even after a town chooses us." Silence. The deeper you walk, the more the forest seems to shift around you. The air thickens with memory, with something patient and unresolved. The gentle hoot of an owl echoes between the trunks. Branches rustle high above, even though the wind does not reach this far in, and occasionally, very occasionally, you hear the faintest sound behind you, like the padding of small footsteps that stop the moment you turn your attention to them. But Evelyn's voice blankets the moment in calm, keeping your breaths slow, your body loose, your mind suspended in a steady, soothing twilight. Every story has a place where truth begins to hum beneath the surface, she says, her tone low and velvety. You're standing closer to that hum than anyone has in decades. The path slopes gently downward until the trees part, revealing the edge of a dried-up creek bed. Moonlight collects in its shallow grooves, pools of silver resting in the dips between smooth stones. At the far side of the creek, half hidden by vines, stands a collapsed structure. What appears to be the remains of a small cabin. Only the frame is left, timbers rotted, roof long since fallen. Yet near the center of the ruin sits something that should not still exist. An old rocking chair, perfectly intact. Rocking, slowly, forward, backward, forward, backward. Even though the air is completely still, the motion is gentle, eerily rhythmic, like a lullaby made visible. And though no figure sits in the chair, the impression of weight remains, a faint imprint in the wooden seat, as if someone small once sat there every night waiting for a voice to call them home. Evelyn's voice quiets to almost a whisper. "The child was not just forgotten," she says. "They were erased, left between the spaces where memory dissolves, but presence does not." As you watch the chair continue its slow rocking, a warmth spreads through your chest instead of fear, a strange, soft compassion. As Tugil, re-standing near a sadness that wants only to be seen. The forest hushes around you, holding the moment tenderly. Evelyn brings your breath back into focus, steadying it. In this silence, she whispers, "Allow your mind to rest. Let the night carry the unanswered questions. For now, you are safe, and the forest knows your gentleness." The rocking slows, and eventually stops. The woods fall completely still. The trail ahead waits for your next step. Darkness, soft as velvet. As the story fades, Evelyn breathes. Allow yourself to drift into a peaceful sleep. The forest around the ruined cabin seems to absorb your presence, folding you gently into its shadows as if it has been expecting you all along. Evelyn's voice lingers close, warm and steady, guiding you through the stillness. "Take a slow breath," she murmurs, "and let the quiet settle deep within your chest. Feel the night soften around you. Like an old blanket warmed by memory, you step away from the stopped rocking chair, feeling the air shift lighter now, but carrying a subtle hum, almost like the resonance of something awakening after decades of silence. The moon rises higher through the pines, its pale glow brushing over the forest floor in silver patterns that resemble old maps, their ink worn but not forgotten. As you move deeper along the overgrown path, the ground grows softer beneath your feet, carpeted with fallen needles. The air smells faintly of cedar and cool earth, mingling with something sweeter, perhaps wildflowers blooming unseen in the dark. This sweet fragrance seems faintly familiar, though you cannot say why. Evelyn hums softly, the melody slow and comforting. A tune that makes your shoulders loosen and your breath grow smoother. "You're doing beautifully," she whispers, pacing her words with your steps. Allow yourself to drift, to listen, to follow that quiet thread pulling you forward. You begin to notice small traces left along the path, things that do not belong in the wilderness. Things placed with careful hands. A tiny tin pail resting at the base of a tree, its handle worn smooth, a faded ribbon tied around a slender branch, fluttering gently though no breeze touches it, and farther along, half hidden beneath the fern, a small notebook, the kind children used to practice letters, with just one word written across its cover in looping handwriting, "Mine." The letters tremble slightly, as though written by a child who was afraid or rushed or both. The pages inside rustle when you lift it, though the air is still, but Evelyn's voice steadies you, letting the unease dissolve into gentler curiosity. Some memories cling like dew. She breathes, delicate, persistent, waiting for someone kind enough to see them. You replace the notebook carefully and continue on. The trees grow taller, their trunks rising like pillars supporting a dark cathedral ceiling of branches. The moonlight filters down in scattered beams, illuminating patches of moss with a pale glow that makes them look almost enchanted. The night deepens with each step, yet you feel no fear, only the slow rhythmic pull of the forest, as if its heartbeat is syncing with your own. Then you hear its soft, very soft, distant humming, not Evelyn's, but thinner, higher, like a child humming to themselves while drawing or waiting or trying to stay brave. The sound seems to float from deeper within the woods, echoing gently between the trees. It comes and goes, fading like a breath on glass. Evelyn pauses, her voice almost reverent as she speaks. Hero's end always had two voices, she murmurs. The one it showed the world, and the one it hid. The humming stops. The forest holds its breath. And then you see it, a faint light between the trees, low to the ground, flickering softly. Not fire, not lantern glow. Something gentler, warmer, like the glow of a nightlight left beside a child's bed. You follow its steps, slow, breath steady, guided by Evelyn's calm whisper. Take your time. There is no rush here, only presence. As you approach, the trees part to reveal a small clearing. At its center stands an old stump, smoothed by weather and time, and resting atop it is an untouched row of objects, arranged neatly as though someone had placed them moments before your arrival. A tiny wooden train painted green and gold, a small pair of shoes, their laces tied in perfect bows, a silver whistle, and a single photograph curled at the edges, its surface fogged with age. The photograph shows a classroom desk's crooked chalkboard behind them, faintly dusted, and in the middle of the picture stands a child whose face has been blurred, not by damaré, but by something like deliberate erasure. A soft ringing fills the air, not loud, not sharp, like a faraway bell trying to remember its own sound. The silver whistle on the stump vibrates faintly. Evelyn's voice lowers to a soothing hush. This is where the truth settled when the town refused to carry it, she whispered, where the memories gathered themselves and waited for a gentler witness. The air thickens with the faint scent of chalk dust and warm crayon scents that should be comforting, and yet here they feel tinged with longing. You kneel to look more closely at the objects, and as you do, the glow surrounding them brightens slightly, as though acknowledging your presence, responding to being seen. Then, from just beyond the edge of the clearing, you hear a soft shuffle like small feet shifting in the grass, or someone turning slowly to look your way. But before tension can rise, Evelyn steadies the moment, her voice flowing over you in warm, velvety tones. You are safe, she reminds you. Let the night hold you gently, even as the forgotten things stir. The glow dims to a peaceful shimmer. The forest quiets again, and the air around you grows warm, comforting, as though some presence has settled beside you, not menacing, but relieved. As the story fades, Evelyn breathes. Allow yourself to drift into a peaceful sleep. The clearing settles into a hush so complete it feels like a held breath, the kind a forest takes only when something long forgotten has stirred awake. Evelyn's voice moves through the silence like a warm current, calm and steady, drawing you deeper into the moment. Take a slow, gentle breath, she murmurs, and let the night cradle you. You're moving through memories that have waited a very long time to be seen. The soft glow around the stump fades until it becomes no more than a pale shimmer clinging to the edges of the objects left behind. You rise slowly, feeling the forest shift with you, branches rustling high above though no breeze reaches the ground. The faint scent of chalk dust remains in the air, mingling with cedar and cool soil, like a memory refusing to let go. As you step away from the stump, The ground beneath your feet grows slightly uneven, roots twisting beneath the earth in gentle arcs, as though guiding you along a path hidden from ordinary travelers. A thin veil of mist curls between the trees, low to the ground, drifting lazily around your ankles. It glows faintly under the moonlight, giving every step a dreamlike weightlessness. Evelyn's voice lowers, barely above a whisper. "Let yourself drift," she breathes. "Let your thoughts soften like the mist, gentle and unhurried." The deeper you move into the forest, the more you notice small, subtle disturbances in the underbrush, like impressions left by feet too light to bend grass. A soft humming rises again, the same delicate sound you heard before, threading through the trees. This time, it carries a rhythm almost like a lullaby, not mournful. Not frightening, simply lonely. A loneliness that feels small, like a child sitting on a porch at dusk, waiting for someone who never comes. The sound pulls you forward until the trees open into another hidden space, a narrow grove lit by moonlight, filtering through a broken canopy. At the center stands an old wooden bridge, no wider than a few steps, arching over a dry, stone-lined ravine. The bridge looks too fragile to still be standing. Its planks are sun-bleached, edges frayed, nails rusted deep into the wood. And yet, despite all this, the bridge sways gently, as if someone just crossed it. You pause at the edge of the grove, your breath soft and steady. Evelyn's voice returns in a slow, lulling murmur. "You're safe to step forward," she assures you. Sometimes places remember footsteps long after the world has forgotten the walker. The soft humming grows louder not ahead, but behind. When you turn, you see them. Faint footprints appearing in the mist, one by one, as though small unseen feet are walking toward the bridge. The impressions are shallow, almost shimmering, each lasting only a few seconds before fading into the soil. They stop beside you, then turn toward the bridge. The wooden planks creak once, twice, but no weight presses down on them. You feel no fear, only a deep, quiet ache, as though witnessing something fragile and unresolved. "The child tried to return home," Evelyn whispers, voice heavy with a tenderness that makes your heart slow. "But the town had chosen to forget." You step onto the bridge. The wood groans softly under your weight, but the structure holds. In the middle of the span, a small object rests against the railing. You reach down and lift it gently, a tiny brass pocket watch. The chain is broken, the surface scratched. But when you press the side, the cover flips open with a delicate click. Inside, instead of numbers, you find a message engraved in small, uneven letters. "For when you come back." The watch ticks once in your hand, just once, then falls still again. The hum returns right beside you, close enough to feel a soft shift in the air. A warmth brushes your arm, light and fleeting, like a child leaning against you for comfort. Evelyn's voice softens, lowering into a gentle lull. "You are not alone out here," she says. "You are witnessing echoes, moments preserved not by time, but by longing." The forest around the bridge grows quiet again. The mist pulls back, curling into the deeper shadows. You close the pocket watch and set it gently where you found it, sensing that it matters deeply to leave it there. As you step off the bridge, the humming fades, the footprints vanish, and the night exhales once more, the forest settling into an even deeper calm. Let your shoulders loosen, Evelyn murmurs. Let the weight of the world fall away. Here, you are held gently, even by those who were once forgotten. The trees part ahead, revealing a path that slopes downward into thicker darkness. But the darkness feels soft, inviting, protective, a place where answers wait quietly for someone patient enough to hear them. As the story fades, Evelyn breathes. Allow yourself to drift into a peaceful sleep. Heloth, path beyond the old bridge, descends gently, curling into a deeper, older part of the forest one, where the moonlight tins into silver threads barely strong enough to cling to the mossy ground. The air grows cooler, touched by a faint mineral scent like damp stone and forgotten wells. Evelyn's voice flows through the stillness in calm, slow waves. "You're doing wonderfully," she whispers. "Let your breath stay soft and steady. Let the darkness feel gentle around you. Your steps grow quieter as the earth beneath you shifts into softer soil, dotted with clusters of pale mushrooms, glowing faintly like distant lanterns. Their soft light creates swirling patterns, illuminating the trunks of ancient trees with ghostly halo. It feels as though you're walking through the echo of a dream one remembered not by you, but by the forest itself. The quiet thickens. Then, just as you round a curve, you see it. An old stone well standing alone in a small clearing. Its stones mottled with moss, its wooden cover cracked but still in place. The well seems far too deep for a place so forgotten. A thin rope, once tied to its beam, lies curled in the dirt, frayed as though the air around it carries a coldness untouched by the rest of the woods. As you approach, the forest shifts, again the same subtle tightening you felt near the rocking chair, the same sense of a presence nearby. Watching, waiting, hoping, Evelyn hums a low note, soothing the moment. "Let yourself move slowly," she murmurs. "There is nothing here that wishes you harm." You kneel beside the well, fingers brushing its cool stones. A faint vibration pulses beneath your touch like a quiet heartbeat deep underground. Then, from the darkness below, a soft echo raises, not a voice, more like the memory of one, a single syllable, barely audible. "Barely formid." You cannot tell what it says, only that it was meant for someone small, someone who once stood where you kneel now. You lift the cracked wooden cover slightly. Cold air spills out, brushing across your face with the weight of a story no one ever told. And then you see it nestled in the dust near the rim of the well. A small metal badge, tarnished but unmistakable. A school badge. On its surface, though worn, you can still read the engraved words. Harrow Sent, Elementary, Class of 72. Beneath the lettering is a single initial, L. The badge feels warm in your hand, as though carried recently even. Though that's impossible. Evelyn's voice deepens, threaded with something like sorrow. "Some towns bury their mistakes," she whispers. "Others simply choose not to speak them." You place the badge gently back against the stone. When you do, the forest exhales a slow wind drifting through the treetops, though the air near the ground remains still. Leaves shimmer, the mushrooms brighten, and from behind you, you hear the soft crunch of tiny footsteps, not approaching. Approaching, not retreating, simply circling, as though someone is trying to gather the courage to stand beside you. Then the footsteps stop, and a small object rolls gently from the shadows, tapping lightly against your shoe. You bend to pick it up. It's a wooden topsmith, hand-carved, painted with faded red swirls, the kind a child might spin during recess, laughing in the sun. When you hold it, the top spins once in your palm on its own, slowly, like a memory trying to replay itself. You sense a presence beside you, not visible, not frightening, but filled with a quiet yearning, a longing to be acknowledged. Evelyn breathes softly, her voice a warm blanket around you. The child wasn't lost, she says. They were left behind. By accident or by intention, no one can say, but their story lingered, echoing through wells, drifting between trees, waiting for someone gentle enough to listen. The wooden top stops, spinning. The forest falls silent once more. Then, through the hush, you hear a faint ringing, soft, distant like a school bell, chiming across a playground at dusk. It's impossible, of course, but it continues, threading through the branches, brushing against your heart with a sweetness tinged in grief. You look up. At the far edge of the clearing, a faint glow shapes itself into a doorway of light. No walls, no structure, just a threshold of shimmering brightness. It feels like the outline of a memory trying to take form, urging you closer. But the doorway flickers, unstable, as though it can hold itself together for only moments at a time. Evelyn's voice wraps around the moment, gentle and grounding. Not all truths arrive at once. She reminds, sometimes they reveal themselves like stepping stones, one breath at a time. The glow fades, softening back into the natural light of the moon filtering through leaves. The forest shifts again, not darker, not colder, reduced, watchful, patient. The ground beneath your feet steadies. The weight in your chest loosens, replaced by a warmth that radiates outward, like a hand resting gently over your heart. Evelyn's voice softens. You've listened, she murmurs. You've witnessed what so many chose to ignore. The night settles around you with a velvety calm. The orb light mushrooms, dimmed. The well grows quiet, and the air becomes warm enough that you relax without thinking, breathing deeper, slower. As the story fades, Evelyn whispers, allow yourself to drift into a peaceful sleep. Asterisk, for a long moment, Clara didn't move. She simply stood there at the threshold of the memory room, surrounded by the soft glow of floating lanterns and shelves that hummed with a gentle golden warmth. Evelyn remained silent behind her, allowing Clara to absorb the atmosphere of stillness, the expectant quiet, the pulse of the house that felt almost like a heartbeat beneath her feet. Clara stepped deeper inside. The air was different here, warmer, richer, as though steeped in centuries of breath and story. The lantern closest to her flickered softly, then studied, as if acknowledging her presence. Shadows danced like they recognized her. "What is this place really?" Clara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Evelyn approached slowly, folding her hands in front of her. "It is the heart of the lodge, where memories come when they have nowhere else to go. Dreams, echoes, lost moments. This room holds them gently." Clara ran a finger along the spine of a book, feeling faint warmth, almost like skin. "And why show it to me?" Evelyn's expression softened, touched by something quiet and old. "Because the lodge only reveals this room to someone it trusts, someone connected to its past, someone who needs to find a piece of themselves they didn't know they'd lost." Clara opened her mouth to respond, but the words evaporated when she saw movement in the corner of the room. Asterisk, a lantern slowly drifted toward her, glowing brighter than the others. It hovered at her eye level, pulsing softly. Clara felt her breath catch an emotion she didn't recognize blooming in her chest. Familiarity, ache, recognition, like remembering a melody she had heard as a child, but forgotten. Until now? "What is that?" Clara whispered. "That," Evelyn said gently, "is your lantern." The words hit Clara like a soft blow. "Mine." "It's been dim for years," Evelyn continued. "Lanterns glow in memory of every visitor whose presence touched the lodge. Most fade after a season, a year, a lifetime. But not yours. Yours remained, waiting, as if it knew you would return." Clara stared at the lantern, mesmerized. The light inside swirled like warm mist, shifting shifts off silhouette, flashes of winter, the curve of a hand holding hers, a hallway she had never walked but somehow knew. "I don't understand," she said. "I've never been here." "I'm sure of it." Evelyn tilted her head. "Sometimes memory buries what hurts. Sometimes it protects what matters. And sometimes—" She paused, choosing her words like stepping stones. "Sometimes memories are not only ours. Sometimes they are inherited by the places that held them." Clara felt a strange pressure at the back of her mind, a tug, gentle but persistent, as if the lantern were calling her. Without thinking, she reached out. Her fingertips brushed its surface. Warmth bloomed in her palm. And suddenly, the room shifted. The lantern flared and a wave of golden light swept over her, swallowing the walls, the shelves, the ceiling. Clara gasped, but not in fear. It was like slipping into a dream she already knew. A snow-covered lake flashed before her eyes, but not tonight's lake, another one, years earlier. A younger version of herself, small, bundled in a red coat, running across the ice, chasing lights that danced just ahead of her. A woman laughing, Genta calling after her, a hand holding hers. A soft voice saying, "These lights choose kind hearts." Clara sucked in a breath. The vision vanished, leaving her dizzy. The lantern dimmed again, settling into a soft glow. Evelyn placed a steadying hand on Clara's shoulder. "You came here as a child. Not long. Not for long, but long enough for the lodge to remember you. Long enough for it to keep a lantern lit in your name." Clara swayed. "I don't remember any of it. Some memories wait for the right moment," Evelyn said. "Tonight is that moment." Clara turned toward her, voice trembling. "Why now? Why?" Lead me back. Evelyn's expression turned serious, though her tone stayed gentle, because the lodge needs you. Something has been shifting in its halls. Doors remembering rooms that no longer exist. Lights appearing where they shouldn't. Guest rooms misplaced. And the lodge believes you can understand what others cannot. The weight of the words settled around Clara like falling snow, not frightening, but heavy with unspoken meaning. What am I supposed to do? Clara asked quietly. Evelyn smiled warm, reassuring, certain. Walk with the lodge. Listen to Italiano. Let it show you what it has been keeping safe all these years. Clara looked around the memory room, the lanterns, the shelves, the gentle glow that felt like an embrace from the past. For the first time, she didn't feel like an outsider. She felt invited, chosen. The lodge's heartbeat echoed faintly beneath the wooden floor. Clara nodded slowly. Okay, I'll stay. I'll listen. The lantern in front of her brightened whoosed slightly, but unmistakably. Evelyn exhaled softly, as though relieved. Good. Then your journey truly begins. As they turned to leave, the lanterns dimmed one by one, like stars going to sleep. When the door closed behind them, the memory room fell quiet. But Clara felt its warmth lingering behind her, pulsing like a promise. The lodge had chosen her, and whatever waited in the shadows of its hall's memories, hidden rooms, it would now reveal to her, and her alone.